Daewon sat quietly in the large chamber as thousands of lights shimmered above him. The Galactic Council Hall was always bright and loud, but today it felt heavier than usual. He sat beside Hana and Yuna, both calm but alert. They had come to present a simple request for fair treatment between human colonies and several council species. They did not expect a warm welcome, but they did not expect open mockery either. Hana watched the council members as they argued and whispered to one another. Many of them looked amused. Some smiled in a way that did not feel friendly. Yuna kept her eyes on the main stage where the older council members sat, waiting for the meeting to begin. When the central bell rang, the noise died down. The speaker of the council, a tall and thin alien with bright silver eyes, stood up. He welcomed everyone and announced that humanity would present first. Daewon rose from his seat, adjusted his jacket, and stepped forward. He spoke in a calm and clear voice. He explained that several human outer colonies were facing pressure from neighboring council species. He explained that humans wanted a peaceful solution and wished to strengthen cooperation. He asked for respect and fair treatment. His words were simple and honest. For a moment, there was silence. Then one council member laughed, a loud, sharp, mocking laugh. Another joined, and then another. Within seconds, many of the council seats were filled with laughter. They did not laugh because they found something funny. They laughed because they thought humans were weak. They laughed because they believed humans would always accept whatever the council decided. They laughed because they believed humans had no power. Daewon slowly lowered his gaze. Yuna clenched her hands. Hana stayed still, her expression unreadable. The speaker raised his hand, pretending to silence the laughter, but a smile rested on his face. Humanity always asks for peace, he said, but peace is not something the weak can demand. Perhaps you should try harder to understand your place in the galaxy. More soft laughter spread across the chamber. Yuna stepped forward, her voice steady but cold. She asked the speaker why the council continued to treat humanity as if their requests did not matter. She reminded them that humans had helped in disasters and conflicts across many systems. The speaker shrugged. Help can come from anyone, he replied. But true strength decides respect, and humans have shown neither force nor fear. You only talk about peace. Daewon felt something shift inside him. It was not anger. It was something colder, deeper, more final. He understood now that words would change nothing. They had tried again and again to cooperate, but the council never listened. They never took humanity seriously. Hana leaned close to him and whispered, "It is enough." Daewon nodded. Without another word, he turned around and walked back toward his seat. Hana and Yuna followed. The council members watched them, still amused. When the three humans reached their table, Hana quietly gathered her data pads. Yuna powered down the communication tablet. Daewon placed his hand on the table for one last moment, as if closing a chapter. Then the three of them stood and walked toward the exit. The speaker called out, "Are you leaving already?" "We have not finished laughing." The chamber erupted again with cruel laughter, but the humans did not react. They did not speak. They did not look back. They walked in silence, each step firm and without hesitation. Their silence spread through the hall like a cold wind. A few council members stopped laughing. Something about the humans' quiet departure felt strange. It did not feel like defeat. It felt like a warning. Daewon led Hana and Yuna through the long hallway outside the chamber. As soon as the doors closed behind them, the noise of the council disappeared. They stood in the quiet corridor. Yuna spoke first. "We are truly done this time, aren't we?" Daewon nodded slowly. "Yes, there is nothing more to say to them." They never listened. They never cared. Now they will learn what silence means. Hana looked toward the glass wall showing the wide city of the council's homeworld. Ships flew between tall towers. Millions of lights moved across the sky. Everything looked calm, unaware of the shift that had just begun. "We return home," she said. "We call everyone back. No more talks, no more messages. If they will not respect peace, they will learn to live without it." Daewon sent a message to the human embassy. The signal was short and simple. Prepare for departure. Effective immediately. Within minutes, every human on the planet received the same message. Across the wide city, human workers, technicians, researchers, and diplomats quietly stopped what they were doing. They packed their belongings. They closed systems and locked down offices. There was no panic, only calm and quiet movements, The humans left in silence. Inside the council hall, the meeting continued. The speaker joked about humans being overly sensitive. Several council members laughed again. Others shrugged, saying humanity would return as they always did. But one younger council member leaned toward her neighbor and whispered, "Did you see their eyes when they left? That was not fear. That was something else." Her neighbor waved a hand. "Humans are harmless. Do not worry." But the uneasy feeling stayed. Daewon, Hana, and Yuna boarded their ship. Inside, the crew greeted them with quiet respect. They all understood what was happening without needing detailed explanations. Daewon gave the departure order. "Take us home." As the ship rose into orbit, Hana stood by the viewing window. She watched the council's homeworld shrink behind them. "They think we walked away because we were hurt," she said. "Yes," Daewon replied. "They will understand the truth soon," Yuna added. Daewon looked at them. "When humanity walks away, it is not because we are weak. It is because the other side has chosen to lose us, and once lost, we do not return." The ship entered faster than light travel, leaving the council worlds behind. In that moment, the galaxy remained unaware that everything had changed. The laughter in the council hall still echoed through its chambers, but the silence that followed the humans would echo much louder. And much longer. The humans returned to Earth quietly. The cities were calm, as if nothing had happened. But inside the command centers, control rooms, and spaceports, a different energy filled the air. Every human vessel, every diplomat, every ambassador, and every outer colony had received the same instruction: immediate withdrawal. There was no panic, no confusion. Humanity moved with careful planning and precise timing. Daewon stood in the main control room, watching as the last ships left the council's space. Outside, the stars stretched and shimmered as fleets entered faster than light corridors. Each ship carried not only humans but also the technology, knowledge, and secrets that the council species had always ignored or underestimated. The withdrawal was complete, silent, and thorough. Hana stood beside him, fingers tracing the digital map of council space. The map showed empty regions where humans had once been present. Border stations, research outposts, trade hubs, all gone. The council species had mocked them for decades, saying humanity could not defend its interests. Now the evidence of human absence spread like a shadow across their territories. Yuna tapped on the console, sending messages to Outer Rim allies. Many species had been overlooked, ignored, or ridiculed by the council for centuries. Now they were receiving aid from humans: supplies, medical technology, defensive systems, and communication networks. The ripple effect was immediate. Independent species began to grow stronger, their economies stabilizing and their fleets reorganizing with human support. Inside the council hall, panic began to rise. The laughter that had filled the chamber when humans walked out was replaced by confusion. Council members tried to contact human representatives, but all channels were blocked. Messages returned with cold, silent refusals. Some species began whispering to one another. "Where are the humans?" one asked. "Why are they not responding?" Others tried to downplay the situation. "They cannot leave entirely," said a senior member. "They will return. It is their way to test us." But deep down, doubt had taken root. Back on Earth, Daewon convened a meeting with other human leaders. They discussed the next steps carefully. This was no longer about negotiation. This was about demonstrating the consequences of disrespect and mockery. Humanity would not strike first. They would simply ensure the council realized the cost of their arrogance. Hana projected the status of every human fleet across the galaxy. Systems that were once lightly defended now had full security. Borders were reinforced. Civilian shipping lanes had autonomous protection. Every move had been calculated to show capability without aggression. Yuna explained the support plan for Outer Rim species. "These species have been sidelined for too long. With our help, they can survive. Without the council, they can thrive. We only need to provide guidance. They will follow their own paths." Daewon nodded. "It is not just a withdrawal. It is a rearrangement. The galaxy will learn that humanity's absence is not weakness. It is power in silence." Meanwhile, in outer space, scout ships sent by the council were approaching human borders. They expected empty systems, abandoned stations, or weak defenses. What they found instead shocked them. Each system was prepared, monitored, and defended with advanced human technology. Automated defenses were online. Communication arrays were silent, but fully operational. The human ships that remained in orbit were ready, not for battle, but to enforce a quiet blockade if necessary. The Council scouts reported back. The humans have fortified every system. They are gone, but not gone. The Council called an emergency session. The speaker's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. Perhaps we underestimated them, he admitted. We thought humanity was weak. We thought their laughter was the last of their strength, but something has changed. Whispers filled the chamber. Some members feared reprisals. Others argued that the humans could not act without warning. Yet the unease was undeniable. They had mocked a species for generations. Now the humans had left, and their absence created a void that no other species could fill. Trade networks failed. Systems that depended on human technology faltered. Outer Rim species strengthened. The balance of power had shifted quietly, without a single battle. Daewon, Hana, and Yuna watched the reports from Earth. They saw the effects of their decision unfold. Every human action was deliberate. Every withdrawal was a signal. They had learned that patience could be stronger than weapons and silence more powerful than war cries. Hana looked at the data streams showing Council worlds experiencing shortages. They are beginning to understand, she said. It is not too late for them to change, but they must ask for it sincerely. Yuna added, by the time they do, they will realize that humanity cannot be bargained with lightly, not because we attack, but because we choose not to participate in systems that mock our efforts. On a distant Council world, a younger member whispered to her colleagues, have we made a mistake? Have we gone too far? The others laughed nervously, unwilling to admit that the humans might have been stronger than they imagined. But deep down, a seed of fear had been planted. Daewon and his team did not celebrate. There was no gloating. There was only quiet satisfaction. They had done what was necessary. They had shown the Council that disrespect had consequences, and that humanity's patience was finite. They had walked away, leaving the galaxy to see the effects on its own. Hana projected another map, this one showing the growing influence of Outer Rim allies. Species that once relied entirely on the Council were now independent, prosperous, and increasingly connected with humans. Trade networks shifted. Strategic systems changed hands. Humanity's absence created a vacuum that the Council could no longer ignore. Yuna summarized the situation. We did not fight. We did not threaten. We only withdrew. And still, the galaxy feels our presence more than ever. Daewon looked at the team. Let them watch and learn. Laughter cannot defeat silence. Mockery cannot undo preparation. And underestimation cannot survive observation. The humans continued their quiet work, ensuring that every colony, every fleet, and every ally was ready for whatever might come next. The Council, still laughing publicly, could not hide the worry that spread behind the scenes. For the first time, many species realized that humanity's departure was not a loss. They were witnessing a power that could not be challenged by ridicule. As the days passed, the silence became a force itself. Humanity's careful withdrawal reshaped alliances, strengthened friends, and weakened those who had once mocked them. The galaxy began to understand that the humans who had walked away in silence had done more than leave. They had demonstrated what it meant to respect patience, intelligence, and planning. The human withdrawal continued, but it was no longer just about leaving Council space. Daewon, Hana, and Yuna focused on a quiet, deliberate plan, reorganizing humanity's position in the galaxy. They did not want war, yet they wanted every Council member to understand the consequences of mockery and arrogance. Hana coordinated with the Outer Rim species that had long been ignored by the Council. These species had few resources and even fewer allies. The Council believed they were insignificant. But humanity saw potential. Technical teams from Earth delivered starship blueprints, energy systems, and medical technology. Defense grids were installed, not as weapons to threaten anyone, but to ensure these species could exist without dependence on the Council. Daewon sent scouts to monitor Council systems. He did not wish to strike. but he needed to know the Council's movements. Even now, some members were beginning to understand that humanity's departure was not mere pride, it was strategy. The absence of humans in core regions caused logistical problems, disrupted trade, and left previously dependent systems vulnerable. Una worked on communication networks that connected Outer Rim allies. They were primitive compared to Council standards, but human engineers improved them. Messages could now travel across vast distances quickly. Supply chains and resource management improved. Entire economies began to stabilize. By helping these species, humanity was creating a balance of power that the Council had ignored for too long. Inside the Council, panic grew. A small faction began advocating for reconciliation, fearing that humans might strike if provoked. Another group dismissed these warnings, confident that humans had no desire for war and would eventually return. The younger members of the Council were divided. They had laughed when the humans left, but a quiet unease had begun to take root. Daiwan, Hana, and Una observed this quietly. They did not interfere directly. They allowed the Council to witness the changes caused by human absence. For centuries, humans had attempted diplomacy. For centuries, they had been mocked. Now, without a single aggressive act, the galaxy was beginning to feel the effects of their departure. In human-controlled space, fleets were reorganized. Outposts that once simply served as observation posts were upgraded. Communication arrays, medical centers, and shipyards became fully operational hubs. Civilian fleets were integrated into defense protocols, ensuring that the absence of humans in Council space did not create vulnerability for human colonies or trade partners. Hana looked at a projected map of Council territories. Blue dots represented human influence. Red dots represented Council presence. Empty spaces showed where humans had withdrawn. Slowly, the balance of power shifted. Systems that were once firmly under Council control were now indirectly influenced by humans through allies. The Council species had no idea of the full scope of the human rearrangement. Una tapped on a console, sending encrypted messages to select Council observers. The messages were not threats but statements of fact. We offer no aggression. We seek no battle, but we will not be mocked. You have laughed at our patience. You have ignored our efforts. The galaxy is learning what we have always known. Silence can be stronger than war. Within the Council, debates raged. Some argued that humans could not maintain such a complex network. Others claimed humans were bluffing, that their withdrawal was temporary and they would return once the Council humbled itself. But increasingly, evidence suggested otherwise. Border systems were reinforced. Trade networks had been rerouted. Independent species flourished with human support. Daiwan observed all of this from the human command hub. They are beginning to understand, he said quietly. But not fast enough. Hana replied, patience is part of the lesson. We show them consequences, but we do not rush. Let them think, let them worry. When they finally realize the truth, it will not be pleasant for them. Una nodded. They mocked us openly. They thought we were weak. Now they see our absence, our silence, and they cannot ignore it. They may not yet admit it, but their position is weaker than ever. Outside the command hub, Outer Rim allies received their human shipments and guidance. Some species had never seen such efficiency. Starship engineers from Earth trained local crews. Trade coordinators from humanity showed how to manage resources without relying on the Council's approval. Defense systems were integrated with human guidance, ensuring that each ally could survive and prosper independently. A small fleet of Council scouts ventured near human-controlled space. They expected weakness but found fully operational systems, armed but not aggressive. They sent messages back describing the situation in disbelief. The Council leadership began to convene emergency meetings discussing the implications. Some feared that humans might strike. Others feared losing influence entirely. In one Council chamber, a young member said quietly, "We laughed when they left. Now I fear what we do not see. They are not gone. They are rearranging the galaxy quietly, and we cannot stop it." Daiwan received reports of these Council discussions. He did not celebrate. There was no gloating. There was only calm satisfaction. Humanity had demonstrated that respect was not given lightly, and that patience had limits. They had shown without violence that mockery carried consequences. Hana projected another map, showing supply lines, trade routes, and strategic positions. The Outer Rim allies were growing stronger each day. Systems once dependent on Council approval now operated independently. Communication networks allowed rapid coordination. Resources were managed efficiently. The galaxy's balance of power was subtly shifting, away from the Council's strict control and toward a system where humanity's influence, though quiet, was undeniable. Yuna summarized the plan, speaking to Daewon and Hana. "We do not need to fight. Our presence alone reshapes the galaxy. They see the gaps we leave and they cannot fill them. They mocked us, but they are learning." Daewon looked at the map, his eyes steady. "It is more effective than they will ever admit. They laughed at our departure, but now every laugh is accompanied by doubt. They are learning that we do not need aggression to command respect. Silence, preparation, and guidance are enough." Days turned into weeks. The Council struggled to adapt. Some species quietly began to improve their own systems, aware that humanity's absence had consequences. Others floundered, unable to maintain infrastructure without human guidance indirectly influencing their allies. The more the Council tried to regain control, the more obvious it became that their mockery had underestimated human patience and intelligence. Hana, Yuna, and Daewon continued their work in calm, deliberate ways. They did not celebrate victories because there were no battles to win. Each day, humanity strengthened allies, improved systems, and quietly observed the Council's reactions. It was a different kind of power. It was subtle, patient, and indirect. It was influence without aggression. It was strategy without war. And slowly, the galaxy began to realize that the humans who had walked away in silence were not gone. They were simply rearranging the balance of power in ways the Council had never imagined. The humans continued their quiet but firm strategy. They did not strike first, yet every move they made sent a clear message. Humanity would no longer tolerate mockery or disrespect. Daewon, Hana, and Yuna oversaw the coordinated strengthening of human influence in the galaxy. This was not aggression. It was careful planning, preparation, and silent demonstration of capability. Outer Rim species received continuous support. Starship engineers trained local crews, while logistics experts helped establish independent trade routes and resource systems. Defense grids were constructed to protect key locations. Medical facilities were upgraded with advanced technology. Humanity was not only preparing itself, but also creating a network of allies that could exist independently of the Council. Within Council space, panic began to spread. Reports of empty systems, reinforced stations, and sudden improvement among Outer Rim species reached the central chambers. The Council could no longer dismiss humanity's absence as weakness. The laughter that had followed their departure was replaced by concern and uncertainty. A faction within the Council proposed sending fleets to test human borders, expecting minimal resistance. They assumed humans had left completely, leaving only civilian stations and isolated fleets. Their arrogance led them to ignore the reports of fully operational defense systems, human engineers, and automated security grids. Daewon received intelligence of this plan. Hana and Yuna analyzed the potential consequences. They agreed on a simple principle. Humanity would not attack first. They had no desire for war. Their strategy was to let the Council feel the impact of their absence without the need for combat. The Council's scouting fleet approached a human border station. They expected weakness, but the moment they entered human-controlled space, their systems detected automated defenses and a network of human vessels ready to respond. The scouts hesitated. They sent messages back, reporting that humans had fortified the station far beyond what they had imagined. Council leadership began to fear the potential consequences of provoking humanity. Meanwhile, human-led coordination with Outer Rim allies reached a new level. Supply lines were secure, starship crews trained, and strategic positions reinforced. Humanity had effectively created a buffer zone, ensuring that any aggressive action by the Council would be met with strong defensive responses and widespread disruption. Inside the Council, debates grew heated. Some argued for reconciliation, hoping that humanity would return to diplomacy. Others feared that the longer humans remained absent, the more powerful they would become. The younger Council members, who had once laughed openly, now watched in silence, realizing that the humans who had walked away in quiet dignity were reorganizing the galaxy in ways the Council could not control. Daewon, Hana, and Yuna monitored every Council reaction. They did not interfere directly, but each new report confirmed the effectiveness of their strategy. The Council's power was no longer absolute. Humanity's influence was increasing, quietly and steadily. Hana projected a map showing outer rim systems now capable of self-defense and independent trade. Each system was connected to human guidance, yet operated independently. The balance of power had shifted. The Council could no longer assume control over these systems, and their former arrogance was being replaced with fear and uncertainty. Yuna sent encrypted messages to selected Council observers, not as threats, but as reminders. We offer no aggression. We seek no battle. But we will not tolerate mockery. You have ignored our efforts and laughed at our patience. Now the galaxy is learning that silence can be stronger than war. The Council struggled to respond. Trade networks collapsed in some areas. Systems that depended on human guidance in subtle ways faced disruptions. The Outer Rim allies flourished, their economies growing stronger, their fleets more capable. Humanity had not struck, yet the consequences of their departure were severe. Daewon watched the results carefully. He did not celebrate. There was no gloating. He understood that the true power of this strategy lay in subtlety. Humanity had achieved more by leaving than the Council could have achieved with aggression. They had demonstrated that patience, planning, and strategic silence could be more effective than war. Hana spoke quietly, analyzing the Council's internal communications. They still do not understand. They believe we are gone, but we are simply reorganizing. Each step we take strengthens ourselves and our allies. Every day they feel our absence. They realize how dependent they have become on what they once ignored. Yuna nodded. They mocked humanity for centuries. Now they see that our silence carries more weight than any threat could. They underestimated our patience, our planning, and our capability. Outside human-controlled space, Outer Rim allies reported growing confidence. Independent species had integrated human technology into their fleets and defenses. Communication. Networks allowed rapid coordination and efficient resource distribution. Even the most neglected systems now operated at levels previously unimaginable. Humanity's withdrawal had created a ripple effect, strengthening allies while weakening the Council's control. A young Council member, once a leader in the laughter-filled session when humans left, whispered nervously, "They are not gone. They are rearranging the galaxy without a single strike. We have underestimated them completely." Daewon, Hana, and Yuna continued their work without pause. Every move, every shipment, every training session was part of a deliberate plan. They did not need to fight to demonstrate power. The Council, with all its resources and arrogance, had learned too late that humanity's departure had consequences far beyond what they imagined. Human fleets remained on standby, fully prepared but not aggressive. Civilian fleets were integrated into defense strategies, ensuring that every system under human influence was secure. Outer Rim allies became capable of independent operations, further reinforcing the quiet power of humanity's strategy. Hana projected another map, showing the combined strength of human-aligned systems and Outer Rim allies. The Council could no longer ignore the shift. Systems that were once firmly under Council control now operated with autonomy, guided by human support. Humanity's absence was no longer a gap, but a growing influence that reshaped the balance of power quietly, but effectively. Yuna summarized the situation to Daewon and Hana. "We do not need war to demonstrate our strength. Our presence, even in absence, reshapes the galaxy. They mocked us openly, but the effects of our silence are undeniable." Daewon looked at the projection, his eyes steady. The Council will understand too late that patience has its limits. They laughed when we left, but the consequences of that laughter are now unfolding. We have shown that strategy, planning, and restraint can be more powerful than any fleet in the galaxy. Days passed, and the Council struggled to regain control. Some species quietly improved their own systems in response to humanity's absence. Others could not adapt and found themselves increasingly reliant on Outer Rim allies, strengthened by human support. The more the Council tried to assert authority, the more obvious it became that their past mockery had underestimated humanity's capabilities. Hana, Yuna, and Dayawan continued their careful oversight. They did not celebrate victories because there were no battles. Each day, humanity strengthened allies, improved systems, and observed the Council's reactions. Their strategy was subtle, patient, and effective. They had proven that mockery and arrogance would not be tolerated, and that silence, preparation, and guidance could reshape the galaxy more powerfully than open conflict. The humans had not fought, yet the galaxy was changing. The Council, once confident and dismissive, now faced the quiet power of humanity reorganizing the balance of influence. Every laugh that had greeted their departure now carried a shadow of fear. The lesson was clear. Humanity's silence was not weakness, but a force that even the Council could not ignore. Day 1, Hana and Yuna stood in the central command hub on Earth, watching the galaxy shift around them. Every report, every map, every message confirmed the effectiveness of humanity's quiet strategy. The Council had no idea how far-reaching the impact of human absence had become. For centuries, humans had been dismissed, mocked, and underestimated. Now the galaxy was beginning to see that mockery had consequences. Outer Rim allies were thriving. Civilizations that the Council had once ignored now operated independently. Trade networks, defense grids, and communication systems ran efficiently. Starship crews trained by humans maintained security and ensured stability. Humanity's influence was everywhere, yet it was invisible to those who still assumed humans were weak. Daewon looked at the reports, then at Hana. "They will not admit it," he said. "The Council thinks we are gone. They think our departure is temporary, but they are learning slowly the price of underestimating humanity." Hana nodded. "Patience has always been our strength." They laughed at it. Now they will understand its power. Yuna adjusted a display showing the positions of human-aligned fleets and Outer Rim allies. They have already begun to adapt, but it is too late. Systems once under Council control now operate independently. Trade routes have shifted. Communication networks bypass them entirely. The galaxy is reorganizing around humanity's influence, quietly but steadily. Inside the Council hall, fear had begun to replace arrogance. Members who had once laughed openly now debated quietly, uncertain of what to do next. Some argued for renewed diplomacy, recognizing that humanity's absence had consequences far beyond their previous assumptions. Others remained in denial, clinging to the belief that humans would eventually return to negotiation. But reports from scouts and traders were undeniable. Humanity had prepared, strengthened allies, and ensured that any Council attempt to reclaim control would be met with a coordinated and capable resistance. Daewon convened a holographic meeting with Outer Rim leaders. They discussed strategy not for war but for stability. Each species was now capable of defending itself and managing its own systems. The galaxy was slowly balancing itself in a way that the Council could not control. Humanity's guidance was subtle but decisive. Hana spoke to the group, her voice calm but firm. "We did not leave to punish you. We left because the Council refused to respect our efforts. You have been given the tools to survive independently. Use them wisely. The galaxy will test you, but you will be prepared." Yuna added, "We will continue to observe. We will not interfere unless provoked. Our goal is not war but understanding, that patience, planning, and respect are worth more than mockery and arrogance." Reports continued to come in from Council space. Systems once heavily dependent on human trade and guidance experienced disruption. Some Council species panicked as Outer Rim allies began to operate independently. The balance of power had shifted. No fleets had fired a shot, yet the Council felt the consequences of their mockery every day. Daewon observed the Council communications. Members whispered fearfully among themselves. They admitted to one another that they had underestimated humanity. They had laughed at their patience, ignored their contributions, and now faced a reality they could not easily reverse. Hana projected a final map showing the distribution of human influence and allied systems. The red zones represented Council territories, but blue dots of human presence and influence had begun to dominate strategic locations previously considered under firm Council control. Trade, security, and communication networks had shifted. Even without a battle, humanity had changed the galaxy. Yuna summarized the situation. "We did not fight. We did not need to. Our influence grows because we acted with precision, patience, and foresight. The council laughed at our departure, but now every action they take is measured against the consequences they did not foresee. The council attempted to convene an emergency session. They expected humanity to return, expecting apologies or new negotiations. Instead, a holographic projection appeared of Daewon. His expression was calm, his voice steady. We offered peace. You answered with mockery. Humanity will no longer participate in a council that disrespects cooperation. We leave the galaxy to organize itself. Those who wish to remain under your guidance may, but our influence will continue through those we support. The council members were silent. The words were not a threat, but they carried the weight of reality. Humanity had walked away in silence, but their absence had spoken volumes. Every system, every fleet, every ally demonstrated the consequences of decades of mockery. Hana continued, We will maintain communication with those who act with integrity and respect. We do not seek dominance, we seek understanding. The galaxy is learning that humanity's tolerance was never weakness. It was a boundary. Yuna finalized the message. We warned you. Silence was our answer. Your laughter has ended. The lessons have begun. The projection ended. The council sat in silence. Laughter, arrogance, and mockery were gone, replaced by an uneasy realization. Humanity had walked away, and the galaxy was no longer theirs to command freely. Allies thrived, systems operated independently, and influence quietly shifted away from the council. The humans had done more by leaving than the council had ever done with power or fleets. Back on Earth, Daewon, Hana, and Yuna watched the galaxy's response. There was no celebration. There was only satisfaction, calm and deliberate. Humanity had acted with patience, strategy, and respect for allies. They had reshaped the galaxy, not through aggression but through absence and preparation. The lesson was clear. Humanity's tolerance was not weakness, their silence not surrender. Hana looked at the stars beyond the command hub. They will remember this. Not all at once, but they will. Laughter has consequences, Daewon nodded. We do not need to fight to show strength. We simply act with purpose and the galaxy responds. Yuna smiled slightly. The council underestimated us. They mocked us. And now the galaxy will never forget the consequences of their arrogance. The humans continued their quiet work. Allies were strengthened, systems maintained, and influence expanded subtly. The council could no longer dominate, but the humans did not seek to dominate either. Their power was in restraint, preparation, and patience. In time, the galaxy learned the final lesson. Humanity's silence was not weakness. Mockery carried weight and patience. When stretched to its limit was a force no one could ignore. The council had laughed once, but now, as they watched humanity walk away and the galaxy adapt in their absence, they understood the truth. Humanity had not left because they were weak. They had left because they were strong enough to show that silence could speak louder than laughter.